the gatha, or the verse, upon opening the sutra. I wanted to give you the experience of not just simply hearing me, but of being able to see the words. And then maybe we could study this little verse together, just to have the experience of what it's like to both hear it and to see it, and to be able to go more deeply into it as the way in which a fixed relationship to language allows us to do, so that we can deepen our understanding and become fundamentally more intimate with this particular verse. So the first line, the Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle. What does the word Dharma mean, first of all? There's a couple of different meanings here. One of the things about written language, it's not just concrete. There can be layers of meaning. These are the canonical teachings of the Buddha, the Dharma. This is what we study, the teachings of the Buddha. And maybe with a capital D, the word Dharma basically is, it is this reality as it presents itself to us. The short word for that is truth. The Dharma is truth. The truth of our reality, but also the truth of those teachings. So Dharma as truth. Now we can go on. Incomparably profound and infinitely subtle. It can't be compared. It's so profound that it's beyond compare. These teachings are so profound that you literally can't compare them to anything. Like, isn't that amazing, just to take that in for a minute? And we do have a way with language of reducing it, because we have to go around about our lives. How much time do I have to really consider the Dharma as being beyond compare? It's so exquisitely and deeply profound in terms of what it means to be a human being, to be in this life, this existence of ours that we just take massively for granted every day because we're in traffic and we're doing whatever we're doing. But in fact, this experience of being a human being, and that the truth of this and the teachings about this are incomparable. Infinitely subtle. One of the images for subtlety in Zen is, and the word gen. Gen means subtle, and it means mysterious. And the image that the Japanese use for the word gen is a black lacquer box, and inside of it is a black lacquer ball. Meaning that when you go to perceive this thing, it actually requires a tremendous amount of attention to really perceive it, because it isn't crude, it's subtle, it's implicit. The subtle domain requires us to heighten our senses and to become more subtle ourselves, become more tenderly available to these truths. So on the one hand, it's deep and broad and lasting, profound. And on the other hand, it requires tremendous sensitivity to enter and to receive and to really ascertain its meaning. So the experience is one of depth and subtlety at the same time. And infinitely subtle kind of implies that there's always more to see. There's more to experience. And that's one of the promises that Dogen Zenji makes to us. The practice is endless. That this engagement that we're in, you can engage it utterly fully with your whole life, and it will never be exhausted. It is infinite in terms of its availability. Is rarely encountered even in millions of ages. We're constantly extolled in the tradition to appreciate the encounter with these teachings, because they are so helpful, and the conditions in our life that allow us to be able to study. If you were born at a time when there was war, or you were born at a time when there was tremendous economic strife, let's say during the Depression, or you were born at a time that you didn't have the spare time to study this. There are so many conditions and situations throughout human history in which, even if you had wanted to study, the conditions wouldn't be there for you to be able to. And so we're constantly reminded to appreciate this, because at any moment it may change. And our ability to study together could, this morning my power went out. Like, what if the power just goes out in a big way and we can't connect anymore, and we don't quite have this ability to study together? So to appreciate that it's rarely encountered and then it's exaggerated even in millions of ages, it extends our idea of time out so that we appreciate how rare it really is. The verse upon opening the sutra, the first thing we're reminded of is how rare, profound, and subtle this opportunity is. Then we come into the present moment. So first, this context is created. Now we've opened the sutra. Now we see it. You guys are seeing it. It's here in the chat. It's right in front of you. We hear it. I was chanting it. And now we're speaking about it. We receive it. We receive the teaching and we maintain it. So there's this sense that you actively participate in the teaching and then you maintain it, you practice it. That's what we do. Last sentence. May we, it's a bit of a prayer, I suppose, or a wish. May we completely realize the Tathagatas, the awakened one's true meaning. Why is it framed that way? May we. May we. It's not we will completely realize it. It's a may we. So what is the significance of that kind of, it's petitionary. May we. And in some ways, when we hear may, it has that quality of extending a little bit for blessing, extending, you could say we're asking the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas to help us. There's a sense of an other when we say may we, or a power or something. May we, could we be supported in realizing the awakened one's true meaning? May we completely realize, realization, not completely understand, realize the Tathagata's true meaning. Does anybody want to react to that word Tathagata or Tathagata, depending on how you want to? Why do we like it there, or do we? Because it could say, may we completely realize the Buddha's true meaning. I wonder why Tathagata is there. You might not even know, but it wouldn't be nice to take that one a little bit deeper, because we kind of chant it, Tathagata, like we know what that is. That's the thing about language. His language is just, it's throwaway. And on the other hand, it's just a Dharma gate. That one word is a Dharma gate by itself. There's actually a koan. The koan is really about the letter A, and that by entering the letter A, we enter all of reality. If we fully enter the letter A, everything is apparent. You could enter this one word and everything could become apparent as well. Now, one of the things about the sutras too that I'll say is that in their being written down, a lot of the qualities that were present in the oral tradition, the mythic qualities, the narrative structures, the repetition, the lists actually appear in the sutras. And it's one of the reasons why when you read them, the Heart Sutra is very short, but when you read them, they can feel a little old-fashioned. So Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, doing deep prajna paramita, clearly saw emptiness of all the five conditions. So we're set in a historical moment in which this Bodhisattva has a realization and then shares it with Shariputra. Shariputra asks a question. So the story is there. If you read the Lotus Sutra, it's filled with stories of the Buddha and of different bodhisattvas and Vimalakirti. So that narrative structure is still there. The kind of mythologized, one of the things about the sutras is things are expressed in quite elaborate and sometimes can feel like idealized ways. One of the reasons that reading sutras or reading scriptures can be tiring is that they're expressed in a way that feels like idealization. And one of the things about modern literature is that modern literature started to strip itself of these overly elaborated ways of expression. The language of modernism is highly simplified, and we find relief in reading something that feels more like our life. When I read the Flower Ornament Sutra, I'm not living in that reality. That reality is a projection of possibility, that I have to learn to appreciate from another perspective. So one of the things about Sutra study is we have to get used to entering again a world in which some of the conventions from the oral tradition are still there. And so we're participating in that, but it has such a different flavor from what we're written to that it can be tiring. I don't know if any of you have experienced that when you've tried to enter Sutra study in a more complete way. So thank you very much for listening and for receiving and seeing and maintaining. Thank you for your practice, your insight. And it is a very precious opportunity to share here and to be with you. Thank you, everybody.